Namaskar, Nileshok with another episode. This time we are going to look at who was Bhagadatta, but more than that, his connection with Naraka, but also Naraka as in Narakasur or Asura Narak, and also the place called PragJyotishPur. I have mentioned about Bhagadatta and the location of PragJyotishPur in many places before. Specifically, about maybe 4 years ago in the Sugriva's Atlas. And I mentioned that the common belief is that the Bhagadatta's PragJyotishPur is to the east of India, or rather the eastern part of India, what we call modern northeast India, in Aaasam and that area. On the other hand, if you look at the historical evidence, the itihasa evidence from Mahabharata, but surprise, surprise, also Ramayana, it will tell you that the PragJyotishPur of Naraka and therefore also the PragJyotishPur of Bhagadatta, or independently PragJyotishPur of Bhagadatta, was to the west of what is modern day India and not to the eastern part of modern day India. But the specifically, lot of people asking the same question, almost to the extent of one may feel tired reading these comments. And I was simply wondering, why are these people not reading Mahabharata, about which they are arguing in a careless and a casual fashion? Of course, the argument happens again, the arthantar, which means the truth versus a deviation from the truth, the actual meaning versus a perceived meaning, and there can be a gap. And why does that happen? Again, Nyaya Darshana gives a beautiful answer. Tat trairasham ragat dvesha moha arthantara bhavat. Emotion. Sometimes you are emotionally connected with a certain perception, and you, meaning all of us, one does not want to let it go. And that's why the study of Bhagavad Gita is important, or study of Upanishad is important. Study, I don't mean just reading in Sanskrit. There are many folks who can read Sanskrit, but still will miss on the intent and the true meaning of Bhagavad Gita or Upanishad. The idea, if you have to summarize Bhagavad Gita in one word, it's a Sanyam or Samyak, creating that balance. And you can see many shlok in Bhagavad Gita trying to intuit that, trying to allude to that meaning. Same thing with Upanishad. Satyena labhyastapasa yesha atma. And how do we get that Satya? Samyak jnanena brahmacharyena nityam. You need a Samyak jnan, a balance, objective truth. And therefore, to get objective truth, you need an objective mind, objective intellect, sharp intellect, objective mind, a balanced mind. Let's look at the evidence itself. But just before that, recently, when this same issue came to the fore, was these two podcasts of mine with well-known Ranveer Allahabadiya. The first one, I think, came last April, almost close to a year now. Mahabharata Secrets, and that has now reached 4.7 million plus views. And at that time we recorded another one, now that came out as Mahabharata Decoded, and that has also reached 3.4 million views. And many of you would know the third one that came about the life and times of Krishna, that also has reached, I don't know the exact number, but definitely 3+ million views. All right. So I don't remember exactly where in these particular two podcasts that I am showing you on the screen I discussed Bhagadatta, but that triggered people in general, but I like to think many folks from Aaasam. Now I do have a lot of friends from Aaasam, And interestingly, none of them asked me that question, possibly because they know me personally and they are aware of my research. But many others, they just kept on commenting the same thing, not even reading the other comments or not bothering to read the original text of Mahabharata, or for that matter, Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana. And the tone of the question was, hold on, what are you talking, Nilesh? Bhagadatta and PragJyotishPur, the Bhagadatta of a Mahabharata, and PragJyotishPur of Mahabharata, and the PragJyotishPur of Naraka. These place, or these individuals belonging to this place, they all come from Aaasam. And I was referring to in my podcast that the Bhagadattas or Narakas PragJyotishPur is to the west of India. I suggested Baghdad as a place. And many Mahabharata dating researchers, okay, and possibly Ramayana dating researchers, because they have claimed something different than what I have shown to be the case for the dating of Mahabharata and Ramayana. And because they have no logical or scientific defense against these dates, so what do? They try every possible way to see if they can destroy my credibility. I find it humorous, I find it comical, but also it's very serious. What kind of wicked mentality is that? This is not our Sanatana tradition. But we always have enemies, right, emerging from Sanatan tradition. That is a Sanatan Satya. So we shouldn't be surprised. Okay. So what do? Even many have made fun of this. Oh, look at this Nilesh, who is saying PragJyotishPur is to the west of modern day India. Bhagadatta came from there. Bhagadatta came from Iraq. Well, that's what I said. And I'm still standing by that statement. And we will more qualify it today. All right. So that's the question. So who is Bhagadatta? And where is PragJyotishPur? And keep in mind, they are closely connected, and so is a Naraka or Narakasur that you would have heard. In fact, this is a puzzle, okay? The entire Mahabharata or entire Ramayana, Itihasa, they are puzzle, and they are not some coincidental puzzles. They are puzzles deliberately created to sharpen our intellect, to sharpen our mind. Now, that's not where I want to digress, but it's a very important point. So each one thing you start studying, and it's going to take you to 10 other things, okay, which is not any different than what happens in science. When you make a revolution, when you make a revolutionary discovery, okay, when you solve a certain tough problem, well, even when you are successful, it leads to many problems of higher complexity. In fact, it defines the success that you have successfully solved it, and therefore it is giving rise to many complex questions of higher magnitude, higher importance, higher complexity. So keep in mind, these are connected: Narak, Narakasur, PragJyotishPur, and Bhagadatta. So the question is, as far as the location, and we will focus on the location, but then we will also talk about Bhagadatta, and also, of course, little bit about the Naraka, or connection of Naraka to Bhagadatta, but also to PragJyotishPur. So the question, broadly speaking, that we are going to discuss here is, where is PragJyotishPur? Keep in mind, there can be many places with the same name, and therefore, as I said, we must connect Bhagadatta and Naraka every single time. So where is PragJyotishPur? Well, we have two responses. Okay, many folks who wrote in the comment, and I like to think that may not be true, but many from the northeast part of India saying, are you kidding? But PragJyotishPur and Bhagadatta in the western area, like west of modern day India? Well, no, it's in Aaasam, and I'm going to show in this episode with the evidence from Mahabharata and Ramayana that what they are claiming is not true. Mahabharata and Ramayana has the story that points to the location of Bhagadatta, Naraka, and PragJyotishPur to the west of modern day India. Now, as to the exact location, well, guess what? We are not certain. Okay? I proposed a place what everyone knows today as the capital of Iraq, Baghdad. And I'll tell you what led me to that conclusion. Now, of course, is this like certain? No, not really. But therefore, I have drawn this a dotted circle oval, on the west side. So it could be anywhere. And that's what I meant. First, let's define this. Is it to the west of modern day India or to the east or eastern part of India? Once we solve this, then we can discuss what might have happened to the exact location of PragJyotishPur. I mean, could this be or was it Baghdad itself? Could it be some other place and from there it might have moved to Baghdad? Or could it be that it was indeed Baghdad and eventually even the PragJyotishPur itself might have moved to different places within that western part, but even frankly to Aaasam. Okay? And guys, in reality, these answers, or at least some of these answers, are there very easily accessible on the internet. So it truly surprises me at the laziness that I experience, that people ask questions, they feel emotional about it, they are attached to it, but they are not willing to do anything to remove their doubt. Now, partly this could be because they don't have a doubt. And that's why Upanishad talks about it. The person who knows, knows not. And the person who thinks he does not know, knows. That kind of descriptions you find in the Upanishad. Because unless you have a doubt that maybe what you are saying is not right, there is no question of one searching for it. All right, let's move on. So, we will nail this down to this question, where is PragJyotishPur? Of course, connected with Naraka and Bhagadatta. I cannot emphasize that enough. And the question is it to the west of modern day India or to the eastern part of modern day India, namely Aaasam? Okay, or to the west, namely somewhere in modern day Pakistan, Afghanistan, the Uttara Kuru region, Iran, Iraq, or even further west to further north, like on the both sides of Caspian Sea and so on. Okay, here is our doubt clearing machine. Our doubt is, where is PragJyotishPur? To the east of India, eastern part of India, or to the west of modern day India? We are going to explore the evidence from the Mahabharata text, and actually we will look at Ramayana too because it's relevant. But even if we don't take the Ramayana evidence, we can still answer the question. The reason I am pulling the evidence in this episode from Ramayana, because that tells you something more that's not even related to this problem, which is to say, again, the consistency and the living tradition of Indian Sanatan Dharma that carried this knowledge through millenniums. Okay, 14,000 years ago Ramayana times to 7,500 years ago Mahabharata times, and actually that knowledge still sustains 7,000 years after Mahabharata to our times. So what kind of evidence? We will look at that. How are we going to test it? Well, we don't know until we know what evidence it is. Okay, and then of course we'll draw the inference prediction as to the location of Bhagadatta's PragJyotishPur. We are going to use information from Mahabharata and Ramayana, those narrations as they relate to Bhagadatta or Naraka or PragJyotishPur. Okay, let's go. And hopefully, therefore, we may able to conclude it's never guaranteed that we will get the answer. We hope, we pray, okay, that we may able to decipher which one is a decisive possibility, a more likely possibility, and so on. And that's why we have the degree of testability, degree of corroboration, and so on. All right, what does Mahabharata has to say? Let's begin with Yudhishthir's Rajasuya Yajna. Okay, what time is this? Just to give you an approximate timeline, it's 5575 BCE. Okay, about 14 plus years before the time of Mahabharata war in 55-61 BCE. Okay, Yudhishthira decides to do Rajasuya Yajna. He consults that with Bhagwan Krishna. Then Bhagwan Krishna and along with Bhim and Arjun, okay, get rid of Jarasandha because that was required. And then four Pandava brothers go in four different directions and defeat and tame those kings and get their approval, okay, and the Rajasuya Yajna begins. Arjun goes in the north direction, Nakul goes in the west direction, Bhimasen goes in the east direction, Sahadev goes into southern direction. The Arjuna's north direction, I want you to, just from the map also it's obvious, but I want you to understand. If you don't understand, you will confuse the whole thing. That it is, think of this as a northwest direction. Okay. Now, Valmiki Ramayana almost refers to this direction, or at least it appears as if the northwest direction as a west direction, and then there is a separate north descriptions in Sugriva's Atlas. You can watch those two talks of mine. So Yudhishthira stayed in Khandavaprastha, which is Indraprastha, and four brothers went in four directions. We are going to look at two directions. One is Arjuna going in the north direction, which is truly a northwest, and Bhimasen going in the east direction, because these two are relevant to our discussion of the location of PragJyotishPur and Bhagadatta. Okay, let's look at Arjun going to the north. Okay, during Rajasuya, keep in mind it is going northwest. Okay, he started at some place right from Indraprastha going northwestward, and some of the places, for example, he went is Anartha. By the way, you can watch my earlier separate talk on Yudhishthira's Rajasuya. There I have discussed additional nuances as to why do you see these multiple, the same named location like Anartha and Trigartha and Kamboj, but in multiple times, multiple places. Okay, so I will not repeat that here. So Anartha, that is like the western area actually, like near Gujarat, but that is mentioned here in a case of Arjuna. Then Sakaladvipa, Shakaladvipa, and so on. Then comes the important point. Then Arjuna goes to PragJyotish. Taireva Sahita Sarve PragJyotishPur. Now, some people will say, oh, but hold on, that could be different than PragJyotishPur. Yeah. Okay. Don't just jump to such conclusions in a premature fashion. Next line, if you read, Tatra Raja Mahanasid Bhagadatto Vishampate, and you can read Mahabharata, you will see multiple descriptions of this Bhagadatta and PragJyotishPur, and that's the same Bhagadatta that people are referring to. Okay, now this Bhagadatta was very old at that time and extremely powerful. He had a powerful army which was multi-ethnic in nature. He had Kiratas and he has people from China, and also many other people, and I assume people from the northwest part of India, and therefore just imagine Afghanistan, Iran, and Uttara Kuru, Uttara Madra, and further west to say Iraq and Syria and whatnot. Okay, we are just guessing, but I'm saying Kirat and Chin, they were definitely there. Extremely powerful army. So Arjuna going in the north or northwest direction is where he encounters the place PragJyotish or PragJyotishPur, and that's where he encounters King Bhagadatta and fights with him. And I'll not go into the other details, they are not relevant. Just to emphasize which area Arjun has gone, then from there he, as if comes back, you can say, but he comes to Kashmir. Okay, so you know where Kashmir is, and you can see that in the map. Then he goes to Trigartha, and this may not be in a geographically logical form. Okay, there may be some other strategic reasons which way he might have gone. Then he also visits Balika. Again, just like PragJyotishPur, there is an interesting thing we can talk about Balik, but not today. Same thing for Trigartha. Each one of these word is basically a hyperlink. Okay, and we can talk forever. But as I'm going to end today with saying, the kind of truth that I am interested, as opposed to this kind of stuff which somebody can simply read for heaven's sake and figure it out. Okay. And then of course Cambodia, something very interesting. Just next to that Cambodia line, there is a word Praguttaram Dishamye. After that, Arjun turned in the northeast direction, Ishanya direction. Now, sometime I am mentioning this word because somebody will take that word, Ishanya, northeast, and just say, look, I told you that's Assam, that's northeast of India. Hold your horses. Use some common sense, use Viveka Buddhi, close your eyes, do meditation, read Bhagavad Gita, read Upanishad, develop that Samyak mind, guys, for heaven's sake, okay? This northeast, because why I'm saying this, guys? This is not a war story, this is not a guess. I have given these lectures before, and just people hear this word, read that word with their snob knowledge of Sanskrit and jump and saying, well, isn't that northeast India? No, it's not. All right. So from that place, he is going further northeast. And where is that northeast? If you only care to read. He is now going to Manas Sarovar. So Kailash area, Manas Sarovar. And then again, maybe he's coming backwards. He coming to the area of the land that is protected by Gandharva. So for simplicity, we will think of this as Afghanistan. Then he goes to Uttara Harivarsha, sorry. Then Uttara Kuru. If you can see this second column, you can read those words. And then he comes back to Khandava-prastha, Indraprastha. Let's look at Bhimasen going in the east direction. Okay, and why am I bringing this evidence? Just to show you that Bhima going in the eastern direction, starting from a Khandava-prastha, think of this as a modern Delhi. He has not gone to PragJyotishPur and he has not made Bhagadatta. Okay, so he is going to different places, Panchala, okay, and then many other kingdoms. Then he is going further east, Prachi Disham. Then he goes to Purva Desham. That Purva Desham, I am saying, that refers to the entire northeast, including Bengal, including Bangladesh, and so on. But this is my understanding of it. If you have something different, feel free to write about it, write papers, write books, make videos, write blogs, on and on. Then he turns southward, okay, possibly following the ocean route, okay, and then he comes to sort of a central east part of India, Chediraj, okay, the Shishupala's kingdom, and so on. And let's see what he does after that. Okay, what did I do? Okay, all right. And then he is turning westward, then turning northward, and now going to Kosala. Okay, that's where Brodbal is there, and then to Ayodhya, where Dirghayadne is there. These are 28th royal descendant of Bhagwan Ram, okay, from a Lava and Kusha line. These are royal lineages, royal descendants, royal genealogy. Only the prominent kings are mentioned. That's a common sense, but common sense is not common, as you may know the cliche. And therefore, many careless, casual individuals claiming themselves to be researchers are creating atrocious nonsense about the genealogy evidence and trying to speculate really humorous but also sad and idiotic timelines for the timing of Mahabharata and Ramayana. But let's move on. Then he goes to Kashiraj, okay, and then many areas along the ocean or water bodies and so on, and then to Janaka's place, and I'll not read the whole list. Oh yeah, then he comes to Magadha, then to Girivraja at Jarasandha's place. Of course, Jarasandha is no longer there, but he does conquer that place. Then he defeats Karna also, okay, Vangaraj, Angaraj, Karna, okay, and so on, and then returns to Khandava-prastha, that is Indraprastha. Notice, and of course, you go back and read the original Mahabharata in detail. Bhima going in the eastern direction. He does not go to PragJyotishPur, nor he meets Bhagadatta. It is Arjun, who going in the north direction or truly a northwest direction with respect to India, has met Bhagadatta in PragJyotishPur. Okay, that was our evidence number one from the Mahabharata's Rajasuya Yajna. Let's go to number two. Quick digression into Valmiki Ramayana. And what the Valmiki Ramayana has to do with the Bhagadatta and PragJyotishPur? Well, not directly with the Bhagadatta, because Bhagadatta, it would be like 7,000 years from the Ramayana times before Bhagadatta would arrive on the scene. But PragJyotishPur was there. That's how ancient this place is, and so was the influence of Naraka. So Naraka may be even ancient to Ramayana. So Naraka, more than 14,000 years old, much older than 14,000, but the place existed and it was very famous. Okay, so Sushana was the head of the Vanara party, search party, looking for Sita in the west direction, and the way Sugriv gives him instructions and some what you can say markers, okay, nimitta, some guidance as to what area he should go. These are given here. And so if you start from the center of India and draw arrow like this, along this you are going to find all these descriptions matching with what was on the ground and what is on the ground today. Now, as to exactly one-on-one correspondence, we may not always be successful, okay, because if we do not have sufficient information, we cannot be so certain, but we can still know a lot with a lot of certainty. In statistics, we would call 95% confidence and 99% confidence. All right, that's all science can do, guys. Okay, let's go. So there is a descriptions of these areas, and I'm saying, okay, these are going in the west direction. What Mahabharata considers sort of a north and west direction, here Ramayana, it appears that Ramayana has taken that as a west direction. Keep that in mind for this correspondence with Mahabharata narrations and Ramayana narrations for PragJyotishPur and Naraka. Okay, so they are going in the west direction. Multiple mountains, and look at those reddish color. These are all mountains. Not surprising. Pariyatra, Vajra, Chakravan, Varaha, Megha, many mountain range. Okay, Meru, Mount Astagiri, all the way to Alps, possibly. Okay, that's what we are saying. All right. So let's go to the point that we are interested in, which is on the next page. Okay, so these are possibly the different mountain ranges that are described in Sugriva's atlas, that is Kishkinda Kand, and I am trying to identify what those specific mountains could be based on the clues in the Kishkinda Kand. Okay, Hemagiri, Pariyatra, Vajra, Chakravan, Varaha, and so on. And in this description, there is a description of PragJyotishPur and Danava Naraka that Sugriva refers to. Now, keep in mind, this is the story of 14,000 years ago, and Sugriva is already referring to this place as PragJyotish and a well-established place of Naraka or Danava Naraka. Okay, and where could be this place? Well, as I said before, I have suggested that it is the Baghdad, modern day Baghdad, or that area. Okay, so Ramayana 14,000 years ago is also referring to PragJyotishPur, also referring to this place as a place of Narakasur or Danava Naraka, and it is to the west of modern day India. Alrighty, that's all I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. Okay, so we can skip. That's evidence number 2. Now, what does Krishna has to say about Bhagadatta? In the Sabha Parva, and you can go, I have given the references from critical edition as well as Gita Press edition. You know, there are these snobby academics. They will waste their time just talking about this and not solving any problems. Okay, so therefore I just gave the reference, not for them. They will not even bother to read this, and even if they read, they won't understand. But for the people who have a Shraddha and who want to know more about our civilization and therefore about the humanity. Okay, because without the ancient Indian literature, we are really grasping in darkness in understanding our ancient past. When I say our, I mean humanity's ancient past. So Sabha Parva, critical edition, I have quoted the words, they are essentially similar, and from Gita Press. Quickly, I'm going to read the Hindi translation. This is Krishna telling Yudhishthir before the Rajasuya Yajna in the context of why Jarasandha must be eliminated. So Krishna says to Yudhishthir, Maharaj, जो मूर और नरक नामक देश का शासन करते हैं, जिसकी सेना अनंत है, जो वरुण के समान पश्चिम दिशा के अधिपति कहे जाते हैं, जिनकी वृद्धावस्था हो चली है तथा जो आपके पिता के मित्र रहे हैं, ये यवनाधिपति राजा भगदत्त भी वाणी तथा क्रिया द्वारा भी जरासंध के सामने विशेष रूप से नतमस्तक रहते हैं, etc., etc., and how he meaning Bhagadatta has an influence on the western part as well as the southern part. Okay, but the important point is now the word Moor. Okay, now you might know the Moors of Spain. Okay, not so ancient times. We are talking last 1400 years. Okay, now a modern Indologist reads this and immediately reaches a most idiotic conclusion, saying, "Oh, the Moors. Well, you mean that 1400 CE or 1300 CE or 1100 CE in Spain? Yeah, but they are very ancient. Okay, just like we have the Pandyas and Chol and many others. Okay, the Kerala and Andhras and so on. Okay, anyways." Another important point, Bhagadatta is referred to here as a Yavanadhipati. And again, Indologists with their limited knowledge and a brainwashing of last 300 years, moment they hear the word Yavan, they are jump into Ionians and therefore Greek. Yes, Greeks were also Yavan, but Greeks are not the only ones who are referred to as Yavan. If you remember, only say 300, 400 years ago, the time of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, okay, the Muslim invaders, Islamic invaders, okay, they were referred to as a Yavan. So Yavan is the outsiders or peripheral, region, folks from peripheral region, kind of anti to the native Sanatana interest, okay, in that sense. Okay, so Yavanadhipati Raja Bhagadatta, in this case he is ruling them, doesn't mean he is anti-Sanatani, okay, and you can see that. He had a great relationship, and that's what is mentioned. He had a great relationship with Yudhishthira's father, and he shows that to Arjuna when Arjuna goes and meets him. Anyway, so what Krishna is saying? Krishna is calling Bhagadatta Yavanadhipati. He is calling him ruling the western direction, just like Varuna is considered the Swami of a western direction. He is very old, Bhagadatta is very old, and so on. And he had a great relationship with Yudhishthira's father, Pandu. Okay? Alright. Evidence number 4, Yudhishthira's Ashwamedha. This is after the war and not to be confused with a Rajasuya. Okay? So, there is slight differences, but for the important point for our relevance is again the location of PragJyotishPur and the location for Bhagadatta, or in this case for his descendants. In the previous part we looked at folks before Bhagadatta like Naraka, okay, and still on to the west of India. Now we are going to look at the descendants of Bhagadatta, because Bhagadatta was killed during the Mahabharata war. And after that, Yudhishthira is carrying out a Ashwamedha Yajna. Again, Arjuna goes following the horse all around in different directions, and he begins again in the north direction. So Ashwamedhic Parva, if you go there, and the first part I'm going to read here, second line rather, Sasaro taratah purva tanniboda mahipate. So initially, right at the beginning, whatever you want to call it, he went in the north direction, the same north direction he has gone during the Rajasuya Yajna. Now there are these brief descriptions. Again, if we take a digression, then things go in all different directions, so I'm not going to go. There is a very specific, unique, interesting reason why when Arjun goes following the horse during the Ashwamedha, only specific battles are described. I will not go into why that is so, take that as a homework. But which areas he went? Once he went north, first he goes to Trigartha. You might recall, or pause the video or go back to video afterwards, watch the video a few times, second time, third time, fourth time, until cows come home, to understand that same Trigartha that was shown in the northwest region with respect to India before. So he goes to Trigartha. He has basically taming of the king there, okay? And then next thing, what does he do? He goes to PragJyotish. Of course, the Bhagadatta is no longer there. He's been killed in the Mahabharata war. War is already over. But who is there? Bhagadatta, his descendant, okay, a son or a grandson. And let's see, yeah, his name is here in these verses, Vajradatta, okay. And then Arjun has a fight with Vajradatta, but I will not go into that story. So Bhagadatta's son or a grandson, Vajradatta, is now ruling PragJyotishPur, and this place is also to the northwest, west of modern day India, not to the east in Aaasam. And just one more point, and guys, go read the original. There are hundreds of additional points that you will see supporting this conclusion. So he goes to Trigartha, then goes to PragJyotish. He's in the northwest area with respect to India, modern India. And then where does he go after PragJyotishPur? He goes to Sindhu region. Okay, and there, you know, Dushala, Duryodhana's sister, was married to Jayadratha. Now Jayadratha has been killed in Mahabharata war, but now their child is now sitting on the throne, and you can actually go and read the whole story. That's why these specific stories have come. Again, the point is PragJyotishPur, even at the time of Ashwamedha in the Mahabharata, is to the west of India. And of course, just to complete the story, after that Arjun goes in the east direction, then goes to the south, and then goes to the west direction, then goes further north toward Gandhar. Like, think of Afghanistan, think of the area of a Shakuni. Now Shakuni is gone too, as you may remember and know, but his descendants are there, and again they have a fight and so on, and not relevant to our stuff, our story of PragJyotishPur and Bhagadatta, and then he comes back to Hastinapur / Indraprastha. Alright. The next evidence, number 5, Sanskrit Utpatti, Vyutpatti, whatever you want to call it, of the name Bhagadatta itself. Okay, Bhaga has, of course, like any Sanskrit word, most of the Sanskrit word has many meanings. Let's quickly read through them. Loveliness, beauty, excellence, distinction, majesty, dignity, prosperity, on and on, welfare, happiness, good fortune, moon, sun, nakshatra, uttara falguni, patron, gracious Lord, God, Bhagwan, etc. The Bhagwan word comes from this Bhaga. Okay, nakshatra uttara falguni. Just because I'm saying it, I'll take a small digression. There is a Indic researcher in the southern part of India, and she has created atrocious, colossal nonsense on some word. For example, in the Mahabharata astronomy evidence, there is a shlok which says Bhagam nakshatra akramya Surya putrena pidate. Surya putra is Saturn. Bhaga nakshatra is a Uttara Falguni nakshatra. Of course, occasionally it is also referred to Purva Falguni. Okay, but Uttara Falguni and Bhaga, absolutely a well established connection. But this Mahabharata researcher from southern India has to make an ass of herself, joke of herself, and therefore she has like created, and I love them by the way, created few blogs or maybe few videos on just discussing how the Bhaga Nakshatra does not mean Uttara Falguni. My point is, even a simple Sanskrit dictionary, and it's not expected to know all the niruktas, all the contextual meaning, but even a simple spoken Sanskrit to English dictionary captures this truth, which is lost on careless and casual Indology, Indic, Mahabharata dating researchers. So I thought I'll bring that point out here. Okay, so Bhagadatta, we got the word Bhaga. By the way, somebody is going to go on a tangent. Yes, the Bhaga also has some other meanings. For example, like a private part of a lady, okay, or a man for that matter, but mostly a lady, okay. Bhaga as in the sense of a whole and stuff like that. That's not relevant here, therefore I have not shown. You can go 2 additional pages of different meanings of bhaga if somebody likes. That's not relevant here, and it's very important to keep in mind. Okay, this is the process of a vakrana, how the words are formed in a beautiful Sanskrit, but also one must understand the process of nirukta. The process of nirukta is a adhyatmic process. Just a simple example is the word window. This is not limited to Sanskrit, by the way. So when we think of a window, what comes to mind? Or windows, okay, a house and house with windows. But that same word was used in the context of computers, okay, the Windows system. So now that word is same, but depending on the context, it has a different meaning, and that is true for the words in any language and definitely in Sanskrit. So keep that in mind. All right. Now let's look at the word datta. Okay, datta means, most of you would know that already, like Bhagwan Dattatreya, that comes from here, like datta, donation, gift, given, granted, and dadati as a verb, which means to give, and so on. Okay, so keep that in mind, very important in understanding Bhagadatta. But I could not go further without telling you this very interesting thing. So as I was going through this spoken dictionary online, and I had typed the word Bhagadatta, and look what comes out as is one of its meaning anyways. Well, the other meaning is it gave name of a king of Kamarup, and that is that confusion that we are dealing with. Is Bhagadatta from Aaasam or Bhagadatta from western part of India, the western part of Bharatavarsha? Okay, but Bhagadatta, one of the translation given is Baghdad. Okay, and guys, don't be surprised, there is indeed a connection. All right, okay. Now I tried different words like Bhagat, Bhagada, Bhagwat, Bhagwan, and so on, okay, just to show some of the nuances. So if you take that word Bhaga and then add Bhagwat, Bhagavad, Bhagat, Bhagada, and so on, and look at some of the meanings. You can stop the video and look at them. I'm not going to read all those, but that has to do with the name Bhagadatta. But something more interesting, in this particular list, on this page, go to the end of it. I did not type Baghdad, by the way, okay, in search. But this spoken dictionary, when I type Bhagada or something like this, it gave me the word Baghdad, and then it is giving city of Baghdad, okay. So, and this is something that I had not done this analysis. This I did only recently in the last few days when I wanted to create this episode on Bhagadatta. But I'm talking of Bhagadatta and his PragJyotishPur and its identification with Baghdad for a very long time. Okay, definitely I'm talking from the time of Sugriva's Atlas in public domain as a sort of a public evidence, but I'm talking of this at least from 2008, 2010, or even earlier possibly. Okay, all right. Okay, next evidence, Bhagadatta's Baghdad. Why not? Now we are seeing the connections there. History of Baghdad. You're going to be pleasantly surprised, guys. Well, pleasantly or not depends on, are you free from raga, dvesha, moha? Free from emotional attachment to certain thing that you have heard before, free from enviousness, and free from stupidity. Then this is going to be extremely interesting and pleasing. Okay, this is a Wikipedia entry in Hindi. I don't know, when I was looking for Baghdad, it just showed up. So I found it interesting. I just decided to post it here. I'll not read everything else. You can pause the video, read it. But here is the map of Iraq and the location of Baghdad at the confluence, at the Prayag of Tigris and Euphrates. Okay, that's where Baghdad is. Now, where I want you to read, pause it, read everything because it is relevant. But just to keep the video shorter, I am going to make you jump with me to the bottom portion, Nama. Okay, what does it say? I'm going to read it. Baghdad नाम पूर्व इस्लामिक है, इस बिफोर इस्लाम्स इन्फ्लुएंस, और उसकी उत्पत्ति विवादित है. Everything is विवादित. Okay, Many folks are interested in keep everything in a limbo. They actually don't want resolution. That way they are seen as intellectuals and therefore some importance from ordinary folks. They are not interested in resolving the issue. So everything is a vivadit. Just keep that in mind. Okay, especially about anything ancient, anything that is non-Abrahamic, you are going to see this. Anyways, जिस स्थान पर बगदाद शहर विकसित हुआ वह सहस्राब्दियों से आबाद है. इट इज़ देयर फॉर सेंचुरीज एंड मिलेनियम्स. पुरातात्विक साक्ष्यों से पता चलता है कि यह स्थल बगदाद का था 637 ईसाई में मेसोपोटामिया पर अरबों की विजय के बहुत पहले विभिन्न लोगों ने कब्जा कर लिया था. Okay, so before Islam took it over, there were many others. And of course, you might have heard about the Babylonians and Sumerian. Again, these are names many times given in a careless, casual fashion by Western archaeologists, Western Indologists. But hey, we have what we have. Okay, और कई प्राचीन साम्राज्यों की राजधानियाँ आसपास के क्षेत्र में स्थित थी. Very important. लेट्स गो फर्दर. अरब लेखकों ने बगदाद के नाम की पूर्व इस्लामिक उत्पत्ति को समझते हुए आमतौर पर इसकी जड़ें मध्य फारसी में खोजी है. सो दैट इज़ द पर्शियन लैंग्वेज. नाउ ऑफ कोर्स पर्शियन, guys, different subject altogether. That's how these are connected. The area of linguistics. You can read Shrikant Talagiri's work, his third book on Avesta and Rigveda and so on. See the connection between Sanskrit, the Rigvedic Sanskrit, and Persian. Realize which came first. Lot of interesting reading. So Parsi or the Persian, which means what? Basically the Indian language, Indian influence, Sanskrit influence, Sanatana influence. Okay, but you don't have to take my word, just keep reading. उन्होंने विभिन्न अर्थ सुझाए जिनमें से सबसे आम था ईश्वर द्वारा प्रदत्त. Okay, so given by God. Okay, the gift of God and so on. Bhagadatta. Bhaga is Bhagwan, Datta is given by God, something of that nature. Okay, does that ring a bell? Are the dots getting connected? Well, here is the English version of it. Again, you can pause it and read the whole thing. On the right side, I have taken some of the key points from the left side. For example, it is pre-Islamic, the Baghdad. Root is in Middle Persian. That's what the Wikipedia says. It means bestowed by God. Okay, remember Bhagadatta. Okay, and those words from different related languages, daughter languages of Sanskrit, Bhaga, God, okay, and Bhag, and then you can see all different variations, and Dad as in given. You can see those words getting changed to Mitradad, to Meherdad, and so on and so forth. Okay, and go to Old Persians, you are going to find roots coming closer to Sanskrit, Bogu, and so on. You can read bullet number 6. I will not read that. Now, there are similar places besides Baghdad in Georgia, which is what? Just west of Caspian Sea. You see the place called Bhagadati, which has the same derivation like Baghdad and Bhagadatta. But one more interesting thing. Go to number 8. Jewish Babylonian Aramic. The Aramic language, very interesting and has deep connections with ancient Indian civilization. Okay, also in modern times with Jesus Christ. But just to avoid digression, I will not go there. And you know what is the word that is being used for this place and the name? You can read the detailed descriptions for Baghdad and similar words. Bhagadatta. Bhagadatta. Now, is this guys closer to Bhagadatta? Well, for some people it is. Other people's, they will never ever come close to the truth. Okay, I'll leave it at that. So, now disambiguation of Bhagadatta. Okay, dis means to remove, and ambiguous meaning the ambiguity, the confusion, okay, the samshaya and so on. And so the words have in this case similar meaning. Bhagadatta, that is the word I have taken at the top. Okay, and you can see many individuals with the same name. Okay, so for example, is mentioned. Okay, Bhagadatta is the king of ancient Indian kingdom of PragJyotisha. It doesn't say the location, at least here. Okay, then now come down. Bhagadatta. Okay, this was a 6th century king in the Malay Peninsula. Bhagadatta, another one, is a 10th century king at Dwaravati. Don't confuse that with Krishna's Dwarka in central Thailand. These places, okay, they have gotten into other places, just like there is a Ayodhya in Thailand. Okay, and Bhagadatta, another Bhagadatta, an alternative name for a butterfly species. We can safely ignore that. Okay, so let's move on. History. Just like there is a place called Baghdad, now there is another place, Bhagadati, again very close to Bhagadatta. Okay, is one of the oldest village. Now it is a village. In fact, if you go in ancient India and some of the places that were capitals of great kingdoms, today, surprise, surprise, today they are villages. Okay, and that happens. Okay, the locations change, they lose their importance, and things crumble and they turn into villages. Okay, so something very similar. Bhagadati is a village in the country Georgia, not the state Georgia where I live in America. Okay, and if you look at the meaning of it, surprise, surprise, you're going to find very similar to Bhagadatta. Okay, so I think that's enough possibly. Let's go to the last one, number 7. How Iraqis used to say Baghdad. And I say used to because they might be saying it even now. But I tried this with my Iraqi friends, okay, in America. And the problem is, when I said, okay, so, and I didn't even say it myself because he will say the same way. So I said, okay, I just typed this word Baghdad, Baghdad, and say, how do you say it? Not the way Americans are saying it, not the way most of the world is saying it. And he says, same thing. Yeah, we say the same way. Well, that's not so. In fact, until recently, and it still may be there, but I could not find it while I was trying to pull some information from Wikipedia for this particular episode. But there was a pronunciation of Baghdad given as Iraqis pronounce it. And do you know what it was? Bagada. So how do Iraqis pronounce Baghdad? And it was there, and it still may be there on Wikipedia. So some of you who are tech savvy, if you can go search and if you can find it and if you can somehow download that sound, I would truly appreciate it if you do that and share with me. So the way it sounds is like Bhagada, Bhagada. Now isn't that Bhagadatta? But maybe possibly the last portion dropped off. And that just reminded me the humor with my French friends, okay, and my colleagues. For example, my good friend Michel Lavis, and the first time I met and I was at his place, with his extended family and children. And so when they were talking, I just noticed, this is many, many years ago, multiple decades ago. And so when they were saying Paris, they were saying Paris, Paris, And now I'm just saying this because that's like a Bhagadatta or Baghdad saying as a Bhagada, just not saying the last portion. And so this is the humorous part on the Paris. So I said, oh yeah, because I knew very little Sanskrit, very little French. That is still the case. I said, so I get it. Just like in many words in French, you drop the last letter or just don't say it, or don't say all the letters. So you don't say S in Paris. And they say, what do you mean? I say, well, Paris is like Paris, but you are not pronouncing S. He said, no, we do it. I said, really? Can you say this again? And they say, yeah, Paris, Paris, and it was a lot of fun. Actually, I made 5-6 different individuals in his family say the same thing. And every time they're saying Paris, and I'm saying, okay, I don't hear the S in it, but that's the fun of it. Okay, so maybe something Bhagada, actually the Baghdad pronounced as a Bhagada. If you can find that voice recording of how locals say Baghdad, Bhagada, 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 please see if you can pull this from Wikipedia and share it with me. So that's our evidence. Now again go back to the doubt clearing machine. Our problem is, where is PragJyotishPur, and therefore where was Bhagadatta and the place of Narakasur or Narakadano. Okay, we said we will restrict ourselves to Mahabharata, and of course we took a small digression into Ramayana because of its importance to understand the consistency and the preservation of knowledge across millenniums in this great Sanatan Vedic Dharma, the Hindu Dharma, okay, the Hindutva, the Hindu civilization. So the theory is Mahabharata text provides sufficient clues for the location of Bhagadatta and his kingdom at PragJyotishPur. And we didn't know what evidence we'll find. I have listed all the evidence that I discussed in this episode. Yudhishthir's Rajasuya Yajna, Valmiki Ramayana, Krishna on Bhagadatta, Yudhishthir's Ashwamedha, Sanskrit Utpatti of the word Bhagadatta, typo there, okay, disambiguation of the Bhagadatta, the word, the different Bhagadattas. So there is no one Bhagadatta, but we have to separate Mahabharata's Bhagadatta from recent Bhagadattas in our times, okay, and then pronouncing Bhagadatta, but also pronouncing Baghdad and other places which are related to the name Bhagadatta, by the way. In Georgia, there are other places that I did not discuss, but they are there in Iran, they are there in Afghanistan. For example, some of you might remember the word Bagram, that's how Americans might say it. Okay, it was one of the base when American soldiers were there. And do you know what that is? It's essentially Bhagwan Ram. And some of you must be thinking, Nilesh, you are kidding. No, I am not. Okay, so that Bhaga is coming from that Bhagwan and Ram. Okay, as you can easily relate the influence of Bhagwan Ram in Afghanistan. Again, you have to go and read the Uttarakanda, okay, of Valmiki Ramayana, and you can see the connection, how Ikshvaku dynasty before Rama, but again at the time of Bhagwan Ram, like Bharata, and he going with his two sons towards the northwest part with respect to India and establishing kingdoms there and so on. Okay, alrighty. So based on that evidence, how do we do the testing? Now there is no objective or rather empirical way of doing the testing other than logically bringing this evidence together. Okay, so all these different descriptions disconnected with each other but connected to PragJyotishPur and Bhagadatta or Vajradatta, his descendants or folks before him like a Naraka Danav. And if we look at the location of PragJyotishPur, what evidence is available and where it is pointing us to? Is it pointing us to the west of modern India, or is it pointing us to the eastern part of modern India, namely Assam? And the answer is, now this should not be a surprise by this time. If it is a surprise, you need to watch this video again. And after a few times you are still surprised, give it up. Take some other hobby that is of interest to you, where you have better abilities. The prediction, the inference is that the PragJyotishPur of Bhagadatta was to the west of modern India. I have suggested Baghdad, the modern day Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. It could be anywhere near that region. It could be in the modern country of Georgia, like a Bhagadatta. Okay, it could be in Iran, it could be in Afghanistan, it could be in the modern day Pakistan. And as I said, this is another total different area. I don't want to discuss that here. Is that the kingdoms move, just like Ayodhya is there, okay, or Ikshvaku's area was there in Haryana, then it moved to Ayodhya, okay, but it also moved to Ayodhya in UP, but eventually, not eventually, it also in parallel moved to Thailand and so on, okay. So that happens. Something similar would have also, actually it has happened to the places like Cambodia and Anartha and Trigartha, and therefore not a surprise if it also happened to PragJyotishPur. Okay, now somebody will ask, but hold on, in Aaasam, folks from Aaasam, my dear friends, and those who I don't know will say, but look, we have a tradition here. Yes, if you just go to Wikipedia, and I'm not saying that everything in Wikipedia can be trusted. In fact, most of it cannot be trusted. But it is what it is, unless we create our own Hindupedia. Okay. So PragJyotishPur you can read. I'm not going to read that. Okay. But you can see the connection mentioned with a Narakasur. Okay, and sometimes depending on which entry in Wikipedia you read, okay, for example, let's read this at the top, PragJyotishPur. or PragJyotishPura, now deemed to be a region within modern Guwahati, okay, which is Assam, claimed to be the ancient city and capital of the Varman dynasty. Okay, this is about 1500 years old. Okay, though the earliest mention of Pragjyotish is in local sources come from the 7th century, so it is not there possibly before Varman dynasty. This is a guess. I'm just reading it from Wikipedia. The form was changed to PragJyotishPur in the 8th century, which describes it as the city of Naraka within Kamarupa. Okay, so you can see how the places may move, but if you are not willing to do this hard work tapasya and find out that it happened, we can be always choose to be ignorant, okay, and just keep on fighting in a very stupid fashion. In Puranic text like the Ramayana, well, it's Ramayana is not Purana per se, it is Itihasa, but what does Wikipedia knows? And even if it knows, it may do deliberate nonsense. Ramayana is Itihasa. PragJyotishPur is described as the fortress of Narakasur on Mount Varaha, located in the, notice this guys, northwest of Indian subcontinent in what is modern day Punjab and Sindh. And I'm saying yes, that is a possibility, but it could be beyond to Afghanistan, to Iran, to Iraq, or even further west or further north to Georgia and places like that, that whole region. Interestingly, what might have caused the confusion, east versus west, could be this. Look at the etymology. The PragJyotishPur is derived from Sanskrit. Prag means former or eastern. Okay, so former as in like a past or something, but if it is taken as eastern, then somebody says, hey, how can PragJyotishPur be in the west? You know, and this is east and west is of course relative. So somebody might have decided to establish PragJyotishPur in the east. That's a possibility. I'm just bringing it up to give this as a food for thought. Okay. Now, if you read at the Pragjyotisha kingdom, okay, then I will leave it to you to read this, like how Bhaskar Varman established the Varman dynasty. Okay, and he claimed, okay, a lineage from Naraka and Bhagadatta. Now this is important point, so therefore I am mentioning it. Just like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, okay, he drew his lineage from the Sisodias of Rajasthan, something like this. So until nobody asks, the connection may exist and they may not mention. Until somebody, and then when finally somebody asks, they say, okay, either they already know or knew and therefore they mention it, or they went on the search to find itself. For example, I didn't know that the Oaks, the Oak clan came from Andhra Pradesh, and that is not that long time ago. We are talking of the timing of Bajirao Peshwa, the Paila Bajirao. Okay, so we are talking of early 18th century. Surprise, surprise. Okay, we came from a Kurnool district near Jwalapuram. Okay, and Professor Nagaraj Paturi added to my knowledge about my lineage when he discussed at length, and thanks to him, that there is actually a tree called Auk, maybe spelled as AWK or something like this, in that region in Andhra Pradesh, but also in the Kurnool area, and also it bears fruits. I have not seen it yet. I'm searching for it. By the way, it belongs to the same family as oak trees. Surprise, surprise, or not so surprising. And very likely, our name came from that tree or the area which was flooded with these type of trees, oak. Okay, and then might have turned to oak. Just something interesting, just like Bhaskar Varman drawing his lineage from Naraka, Bhagadatta, and so on. And that may be the connection why now people think last 1500 years or so that PragJyotishPur is in Assam. But my point, guys, is this information is there. It was always there. I don't mean just the Wikipedia, okay? It's there in different texts. Only if people care to take some efforts instead of just fighting in social media. Okay, you can read about Bhagadatta. I can skip that, some of the things that we have already looked at this. Last point I want to make. Because so many comments I saw in this podcast between me and Ranveer Allabadia, I thought I will respond to this. Yes, it is useful. I also had additional insights. But the point is, this is a information that does not need a objective testing. All it needs is a logical analysis. The information is simple and plain narrations, logically and with a viveka buddhi and common sense, and free from raga dvesha moha. It can be easily analyzed by anyone. Frankly, this kind of research does not interest me. Although it is important, it is useful, it does not interest me. And in this context, I want to quote this humorous nursery rhyme, or epistemologically and ontologically speaking, I would say a rhyme for epistemological or ontological nursery. Those people who are still struggling to understand scientific acumen or develop logical reasoning skills. On a humorous note, by the way, twice 2 equals 4, this is true, but too empty and too trite. What I look for is a clue to some matters not so light. I am typically interested in the things those are really hard to solve, but if we do solve them, they lead to revolution. Revolution in our understanding, and revolution in terms of prosperity, revolution in terms of the growth of knowledge. That's what interests me. And that's what science is interested, at least the true science, because a lot of fluff is done under the name of science everywhere. So only if it is an answer to a problem, a difficult, a fertile problem, a problem of some depth, okay, does a truth or a conjecture about the truth becomes relevant to science, the kind of science that I am interested in, not the social science, okay, not the science that deals in opinions, not the kind of science, in the name of science, I mean, that tries to figure out things based on consensus. Keep in mind, if something is about consensus, then it's not science. If something is about science, then it does not need consensus. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Write your comments, write your suggestions. Keep that in mind. Just because you give a suggestion, if it's not interesting enough, I showed that to you just now, I may not able to take it for another episode. Another reason could be I don't have sufficient information to meaningfully talk about it. But please give the suggestions. If you like this video, share with whoever you know. Watch this video and other videos multiple times. In another video, I talked about the importance of Parayan. When you read, when you listen to the same thing multiple times, that's when finally things come home. Finally, people start understanding things. And have this Shraddha, that if you keep on listening to these, or certain grantha like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad and so on, even if you don't know Sanskrit, even if you don't understand Sanskrit, and this is my experience, guys, so I'm sharing with you, if you keep on doing Parayan with Shraddha, and of course, don't just do that like a rote, take help of Sanskrit dictionaries, translations, see if it adds to your understanding. I can tell you from my limited but still 30 plus years of experience that Parayana basically helps you understand the meaning, and you will surprise yourself. You say, it's amazing. The first day I started reading a certain stotra or a certain adhyaya of Bhagavad Gita, or say other stotra like say Ram Raksha, okay, and you just keep on repeating it, Parayan, okay, reciting it, and you don't know why or how or what made it happen, but you just start understanding the meaning of it, and no one even talked to you. No one gave you a translation of it. That's the beauty of Parayan. And on that note, I want to end this episode. Talk to you soon. Namaskar.